wailed like a feral chostry. But Izumi was determined to carry on climbing. Her Uma friend Brackenbelly was just a little further up the mountain. His strong Uma muscles made it easier for him to lift himself from rock to rock and swing from crag to crag. His grey skin was almost white with cold. Izumi didn't have much more colour. Climbing the mountain was harder than she'd expected, but Izumi knew she was almost at the top. Once they were there, she would be free, really free, for the first time ever. Izumi looked up at Brackenbelly as he scrambled over the top of the mountain and disappeared from view. She took a lungful of cold air and prepared to reach for the final handhold. She stretched up, but it was just out of reach. "Brackenbelly," Izumi called, but all she heard in return was the screech of the wind as it whistled past, trying to pluck her off the rock face. She called again, louder this time, but still no answer came. "I can do this," Izumi said to herself, sending great billows of hot breath out of her mouth. The warm air chilled around her fingers. "If I can just stretch a little bit more, I can reach it. I know I can." She extended her arm again, but the rock was just too far to reach. "I'm not going to give up now that I'm so close." She looked at the crag in the gritty rock she was trying to reach. It wasn't that far. Maybe she could try. Izumi bent her knees and got ready to try her idea. She jumped. Her fingertips brushed the top of the rock she was aiming for and missed. She had just enough time to scream, "Brackenbelly!" And then she fell. A tug on her arm stopped her falling. "Got you!" Brackenbelly said in his deep, gravelly voice. Izumi looked up into his large eyes. He was kneeling at the top of the mountain, his strong hand gripping her wrist, his long hair whipping in the wind. She wrapped her fingers around his forearm and then grabbed his other hand. "I'm going to pull you up," Brackenbelly said. "When you get up here, get ready to be amazed." Izumi felt herself rise in the air as Brackenbelly stood up and pulled her back onto firm ground. She let go of his wrists and threw herself at him. "Thank you," she said. "You're welcome," Brackenbelly said, his words as stiff as his body. "Wow," Izumi said, letting go of him. From the top of the mountain, it felt like Izumi could see the whole of Kinmara. After a lifetime of living on a tiny farm, the world before her seemed to go on and on and on. It was all laid out in front of her, just waiting for Brackenbelly to show her. In the distance, she could see another range of mountains. There were wide rivers that travelled across the land like silvery snakes. There were deep green forests. Tiny dots moved around on the ground and in the sky, and then there were the cities that seemed to wink and sparkle at her in the bright sunshine. Her whole life was ahead of her. She only had to reach out and take it. "This is just amazing," Izumi said, a huge smile on her face. The difficult climb had been worth it. "This is just the beginning." Izumi hopped from foot to foot with excitement. She stepped forward, keen to start her adventures. "Izumi, look out!" Brackenbelly called, but it was too late. Before she had a chance to stop herself, Izumi slipped on the snow-covered rocks beneath her feet. She landed flat on her back and went sliding down a chute of ice. Down and down she went, all the time gathering speed. Faster and faster she went until she flew over the edge of the mountain and out into the sky. "Brackenbelly!" she screamed, but the words were swallowed up as she fell. Her dress tangled around her. Her curly red hair flapped in her face. She was falling, and there was nothing to stop her. Nothing at all. Not this time. Izumi's fall came to a halt when she plunged down into a pool of water. She sank to the bottom. The water was warm and comforting. She could have stayed there forever, enjoying its friendly embrace. Then she remembered she needed to breathe. She swam back up, her arms and legs working furiously. When she broke the surface, Izumi gasped for breath. Once her breathing was back to normal and she felt safe, She swept her hair out of her face and looked around. She was in the middle of a lake, not far from the bank. The land that surrounded the water was covered in plants. There were tall trees, flowers and bushes, all bursting with colour and life. Small birds with long beaks flew up to them and put their heads inside. Various bird songs and calls filled the air. Above her, the sun was bright and hot. "Izzy!" She looked up. Brackenbelly was tumbling through the air towards her. She'd forgotten all about him because the oasis was so beautiful. Izzy had just enough time to move out of the way when, kersplash! Brackenbelly landed in the water beside her. A few moments later, he burst through the surface and, just like she had, took an enormous breath. "That was fun," he said, the smile on his face exposing his fangs. His long black hair had come out of his neat top knot and was flowing around his shoulders. "I thought I was going to die," Izzy confessed. "Did you?" Brackenbelly said. "Yes." "Oh dear, that might be a problem. The world of adventure is dangerous, Izzy. Perhaps you're not ready to join me on my journeys. Perhaps you should go back to your uncle." "No, that's not what I meant," she said, panicking at Brackenbelly's sudden change in attitude. She couldn't go back. She really couldn't. "I'm not so sure. You've nearly died twice already. I think it's best you go back home." "No, please," Izzy said, hearing her own desperation. "No, Izzy, I've made a mistake. You can't come with me. It's best you stay here, in your bed." "What? I'm not in bed." Izzy looked around her, checking she was right and he was wrong. "Yes, you are," Brackenbelly said. "Can't you hear your uncle calling? You'd better wake up, or you'll be in trouble." "No, this can't be happening. Please don't leave me, please." "I'm sorry, Izzy. It's for your own good." "Brackenbelly, don't go. Don't."